All right, welcome everyone to our first virtual chapter meeting. Um, as you know, I'm Mike Kelly, and we've got kind of an interesting variety of topics we're going to hit on today. And first of all, yes, this is the coronavirus edition. And yes, I think we'll all be partaking a little bit later. And somebody, one of our members, has probably already brought the virus to our chapter clubhouse because we found this outside a couple of days ago, and thank you, but no thank you. So if it was one of our members, please don't leave these. And I got to tell you, there is some really, really gnarly stuff growing inside of there. So it's been there a while. So this is our coronavirus edition. And what we're going to cover today is some etiquette of how to do a go-to meeting or a virtual meeting, because this is probably the first time many of you guys have done it. We've got Charlie Becker online. I've also got a videotape segment from Jack and Mark Baker talking a little bit about Oshkosh. We've got our typical reports that we're going to queue up for you. Some of them will be people presenting. Some of them may have video content. We're going to give an overview, an introduction to our website, because turns out we think that there's probably some people within the chapter who maybe haven't used it or don't know the resources that are on it. We're going to have a brief discussion, and very brief if Steve Wheat is on, and I'm not sure he is yet, about our 2020 fly-in the third week of August. So that's going to be a little bit later. Mike Short will cover a few topics in the safety corner. We're going to be Bruce Patton will discuss our hangar expansion project. We've got a special edition from Mr. Gizmo about some tools and tricks for your hangar. And we've come up with some new chapter promotional materials and registration materials. We'll talk about that. Rod Kerr, I'm not sure he's on, but he's been working hard to come up with we're working on a new idea for a chapter logo. We're going to show you some of the early concepts. And as you know, we've been kind of formulating in the background an independent youth flying club, which is separate from the EAA, although the EAA clearly embraces the idea of having flying clubs. And we're going to give you an update on the progress and where we're at with that, because I think a lot of our members would like to take advantage of that capability. And maybe they know people who want to get into flying, and that's a way to do it. We're going to give you a brief video of an Aerolite 103, which is a true ultralight class three-axis airplane. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of interesting. And we're going to give you some hints for home builders, some technical tips, and these are pulled down from the EAA website if you're not familiar with them. So with that, a couple rules of etiquette. First of all, here are your dues. Please use your mute button if you're not speaking. And if you see your microphone there in your control panel and it has a big green circle around it, that means you are unmuted. You're able to speak. If you click that microphone and it turns red, that means you're muted and you won't be making background noise. So we're going to ask that you try to keep your mute button on. However, feel free to unmute and ask a question. As we have various speakers and segments, there's going to be an opportunity to ask some questions. So yeah, we want to engage, we want to encourage participation. Try to let other speakers finish and try not to interrupt them. It's really hard in this format, okay? But we'll just try to give everyone the respect they're due. There is a chat window. It looks like a little balloon, and that balloon, if you click on it, you can actually send messages out to myself, to everyone, to a specific person, and I've asked Steve Sands to kind of monitor that. So if you have a question and you don't want to break in, but you'd like to know something, type it in, and somebody just sent in a question. They probably want to see that I'm actually doing something here. And oh, yeah, it works. Thanks a lot. No. Okay. It's too late for this now, but we always recommend, if you have a choice, to use a wired Ethernet connection on your computer. It works a lot better than Wi-Fi or on your phone or tablet. And yeah, it's just a preference. It may not be perfect. Do know that we are doing the, oh, okay, I hear some people in the background, so I'm going to use this opportunity. I have the magic button here, and I can mute everyone. Now, when I mute, you have to take yourself off mute. So this is just a way for me to kind of keep the background noise down. Now, people like Rich, who are on the phone, may not be able to, if they've called in the phone. Unfortunately, there's no unmute command. So right now, I'm going to unmute everyone, but try to use your own personal mute button if you can. All right, here's some don'ts. Do not call in from your airplane. Although it probably would work, it's probably not a best practice. Do not start your engine while we're on the call. That is going to be extremely distracting. Do not discuss any FARs that you might have recently violated. This is going to be recorded. It is being recorded, and we're going to post this recording up on our website for posterity. So we don't want to discuss anything that's happening. If you have your microphone unmuted, please do not flush the toilet. This happened to one of our Supreme Court justices just this week, and it was a little bit on the embarrassing side. Somebody made a mention. Please do not turn on your camera if you are undressed or anything else that might be inappropriate in your background. And also, most important, please do not make any snarky comments about your host in the chat window. I will be watching you. Anyway, let's get started. And actually, I want to go back here to so we actually have Charlie Becker on the line. So Charlie, I'm going to give you the floor here a little bit, and actually, I'm going to again mute everyone.
All right, Mike, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can. So, Charlie, if I think everyone knows you, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just give us your comments, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Charlie Becker, Director of Chapters at EAA, also Homebuilding Community Manager. Currently, I'm building a couple of projects. I was hoping to see Ernie on the call, but I don't know if he's not technologically savvy enough to do this one or what. But currently building a scratch-built Super Cub knockoff, and also an EMG 6, although I haven't been working that hard on the EMG 6 lately. In fact, as soon as I drop off here, I'll be going to my basement to do some work there. Been at EAA since 1999, so actually at the end of next month, or the beginning of this month, beginning of June, it'll be my 20th year at EAA, believe it or not. There was a short spell where I went out and worked at AOPA for 11 months before came back to EAA. So just a couple of things I'd share. You know, Mike asked me to join if I could. Obviously, we're all hugely disappointed that the fly-in's not going to go on this year. We are talking about doing some online offerings during that time period. We also want to encourage chapters to do some stuff during that time period, but of course that's all going to be dependent on, you know, what the latest, you know, local ordinances are, related to gatherings. You guys all probably heard about, you know, Jack making the decision, and you know, I think it's the right decision. I don't think we have much choice, frankly, because, you know, we're still under a shelter in place here in Wisconsin until, you know, May 26th. You know, generally by now we have weekend work parties going on to start preparing the grounds. You know, we could have worked around that, but you know, at least in Wisconsin, they're talking about a phase 1 of like 10 people, and then phase 2 of 50, and then phase 3 of larger groups. But there's no timelines on any of that, and we're not yet, I don't technically in phase 1 yet. So I think there wasn't much of a choice. I mean, Jack used the analogy of, you're planning a flight and all the prognosis charts are giving you terrible outlooks, and are you better to stay on the ground, or are you just going to launch into 0-0 weather and hope it all clears up when you get to your when you start heading towards your destination. So that's kind of the same situation we were in. So we are going to take this summer, and as soon as we can get some volunteers in here, I think it will be a big year for volunteers wanting to come up and help prepare the grounds. It'll be a great opportunity. If you've been to the fly-in in the last few years, we've had 5 straight years of growth, and that's been awesome. But the downside of that is there's just more people on the grounds, and when weather hits, with the motor homes and things like that, all the problems we had last year with rain, and we're looking at some matting material that we can put down under some of the aircraft parking, and also maybe in the some other areas that are highly used. So there's a lot of things we can do by by having a summer off. As you probably, or you may or may not know, we don't allow any events to happen on our grounds prior to the fly-in, and then usually we'll host 1 or 2 things in the fall that actually use our grounds. Now we'll do some things that are indoor events, like we have a farm show and stuff where they use the indoor hangars, but we don't let anybody use our outdoor facilities during the summer months until after the fly-in. So this will give us a chance to get our grounds in order, but obviously it's hugely disappointing for, I've been to every fly-in since '94 and never planned on having a summer that I didn't spend, 5 days at least in Oshkosh, and yet here we are, with no fly-in. Let's see, what else could I share? The one thing that we'll be talking about in July is we are putting together what we're calling a Young Eagles Workshop, which is basically it's a turnkey day camp program for chapters if they want to adopt it. Sporties has been generous enough to give us some development funds for this. A lot of chapters already do day camps. We've actually been drawing on some of that material. I know you guys have the build program that you do with kids, so I wouldn't be shocked if you're already doing something along these lines. But this will be, primarily like a PowerPoint-based presentation on different things like weather and, basics of aircraft and, different design features, things like that. And it'll allow a chapter that's never done any sort of kids programming to get their feet wet with something and not have to worry about developing everything. For chapters like you that may already have something, maybe you'll decide to pull in some of the content, to supplement your stuff. It's going to be available. It's going to be in a format that you can modify it. So if you want to go deeper, or have more or add your own kind of stuff, that's fine too. And we are going to continue to build that out. So right now we're envisioning like a 1-day offering to get people started, but we'll build it out to the point where you could potentially do like a 5-day offering, over the, I don't know what our time frame is to get it to that level, but over the next year or so, we would add modules that you could continue to pull from. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Any questions?
One thing I would just throw in there, we actually do something called a Teen Aviation Weekend that kind of takes that same idea, and it's a two-day program. And if the gods are willing, the second half of the day we may end up having that turn out to be a Young Eagle flight. They actually will learn how to do a pre-flight on an airplane, but it's been a great program, and unfortunately we had a dozen or so kids sign up, and we had to postpone indefinitely. Yeah. So that's anyone out there have a question for Charlie? I'm going to make sure everybody's unmuted.
Charlie, this is Dave Ullman. If you want me to, I can send somebody the syllabus on the Teen Aviation Weekend because I'm in charge of it this year.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Any materials you have, we've kind of got what we're going to do initially, hammered out, but we are going to, again, as I mentioned, we're going to add modules as we go along to build it out to be a multi-day offering. I guess the other thing while I'm here, I'll put in a plug for, we've got the Young Eagles Build and Fly, which is an RC modeling offering for chapters that you can use to get kids engaged with. We rolled that out last year. And, basically the kit is, retail value would be about $1,500, and it only costs a chapter $500 for their initial one. And then the other thing, because I know you guys have an extensive facility, and I don't know off the top of my head if you've taken advantage of it, but we also have that tool crib reimbursement program to encourage chapters to build out to either start or build out a tool crib. And so we'll reimburse up to 30% of a purchase up to $300. So, if you spend $1,000, you'll get $300 back right off the bat. So, and there's a laundry list of tools on that we have approved, things like aircraft scales, things like, prop balancers, brakes, shears, some of the stuff that Mittler Brothers has, that kind of stuff. So if you're interested, that might be one that might have some appeal as well.
That's great. That's awesome. Any other questions for Charlie? By the way, you mentioned about Ernie. Ernie is supposed to be on this morning. I have a feeling he might have just forgot. Bill, okay. Bill, if you're out there, if it's possible, could you give Ernie a call and just remind him that we have a meeting this morning? Well, we'll light a fire under him, or anyone else who happens to have Ernie on his speed dial. Give him a jingle. And go ahead, Charlie.
One other thing, obviously, I always say that, Air Ventures are pancake breakfast on steroids. It is at its essence a gathering of members, but it's basically like just a pancake breakfast with a whole lot more going on. So it's about getting people together to celebrate aviation and to learn some stuff and have some fun and share a meal and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, it's also, oh, by the way, a big fundraiser for us. But I will say we have been smart the last 5 years when we've had some growth, and we didn't just spend everything. So even though it's a huge punch in the face financially, it's not like EA is in jeopardy of folding or anything like that. So, we'll get through it. I get to I get to re-budget the entire year starting Monday. So, we'll probably be limiting a lot of different things, but to the extent that we can continue to, to get some stuff done, it will give an opportunity for the organization to do some stuff, that we oftentimes, we kind of, for about 2 months, we really don't do much else other than AirVenture. So that won't happen this year. So we'll have some time to get some stuff done for the organization.
That's great. If there's no other questions for Charlie, I'm going to go ahead and move ahead. We have made and actually it was our chapter kind of asked, could we get a direct message from Jack talking about what the decisions were, how it was made? I know that there was a lot of emotion involved. There was AirVenture is huge for the city of Oshkosh, so there had to be a lot of thought that went into this. And what we had requested is, could Jack develop a message that could go out where we could kind of relay that on to our members. But what I'm going to do right now is I picked this up off of one of the aviation broadcasts, and I thought you might enjoy hearing kind of the collaboration between EAA and AOPA with Jack and Mark Baker.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to drop off if you don't mind. It's my workshop day, so I want to try to get stuff done.
We appreciate you coming on. Thanks for giving us a few minutes, Charlie.
Hey, thank you. And by the way, I really enjoyed my visit out there. And you got an amazing chapter, and I can't wait till I get out to your part of the country again once all this travel stuff goes away. So
we look forward to it.
Be good, and thanks everybody. And if there's anything you need from us, just we are still working, even though it's from our remote bunkers at our prison. So. Have good.
Right. Thank you. All right. Bye.
This guy right here. Hey, Jack, how are you doing? It looks like you're having a good time, at least in your hangar. And well, I wish we were in different circumstances.
Hold on, I got to get this thing centered up on my
How
screen.
you guys came to this decision that had to be really tough. So you're my.
It did. It did, and it was really a problem of lead times. So if you look at the production setup for AirVenture, May is when we start bringing in lots of volunteers. We bring in all the suppliers to set up tents, and it really gets busy, and we have a lot of people engaged in it. The month of May for the state of Wisconsin is still under a stay-at-home order through Memorial Day weekend. So that prohibits us from bringing anybody onto the grounds and having any work parties or being able to accomplish anything. Plus, the guidance for Wisconsin coming out of the May 26th, this phase program 1, 2, 3, is really unclear as to right now they're saying they're still red for phase 1. We got to get to a phase 3 before you could have a large gathering, and they still have yet to define how large will be large. The state of Kansas, on the other hand, where I'm currently at today, the restrictions have been lifted. We're back open today, and they're allowing gatherings as we move through the phases of up to 2,000 people. So the decision needed to be made early. It needed to be made before we started to delay in getting things together. Might not have been able to pull it off. And then the secondarily, not knowing when a large gathering will be lifting, we just decided, instead of spending a lot of money and not having an event, this was the prudent thing to do financially to preserve the association.
Well, it turned out to be a tough decision because, I was an AOPA member and an EAA member, and have attended that event for a good 30-some years myself. It's the world's greatest gathering, and the sharing and the camaraderie that goes on. Now I just look forward to 2021 when we'll all be back together, we assume, and we have always appreciated your support showing up at our fly-ins, but we had to cancel both of our San Marcos and let's see, I guess it was Casper, Wyoming this year so far.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mark. I was looking forward to talking to you today, and I kept thinking about, I think you got your pilot's license a year before me, and you attended AirVenture. I think we both attended for the first time the same year, and we've been going ever since. So there's so many similarities of this is what July is for us. This is what we do. And it hurts painfully to not have to have it. But on the other hand, with all the unknowns, it just wasn't panning out to be possible. We're going to make 2021 a renewed celebration. We're going to try to make it bigger and better than ever. Some of the acts that had to, like the Snowbirds, were not going to be able to come. They're recommitting for next year. So we can hope we can regather and make this as big as it has been in the past, because everybody's going to be dying to want to see each other come July of next year.
Well, I know you're right about that. So you and I've worked together professionally and personally for a lot of years as well. Mm-hmm. And as we were looking together about how we're going to get the FAA to kind of get going on this SFAR, and it's been frustrating. And I know there's been so many interpretations of what I thought would be hopefully a simple, let's move the calendar out 90 days on a number of aviation-related calendar issues. It is confusing, unfortunately. The only obvious one that seems to everybody agrees on is what happens with the medical. Basically, the medical got moved out for 90 days, but other recurrency issues and other issues are still remain kind of challenging and really to the individual circumstance. I know both of us have websites up. We're trying to make sure that we can help our joint members understand it. Do you have any thoughts about how the FAA did and how
yeah, I do. I think that this is probably one of their most botched pieces of help that they were trying to create. I mean, the fact that it takes so many interpretations to understand what they were trying to do, we were basically asking for across the aviation community, which included private pilots all the way up to ATPs, from Part 91 all the way up to Part 135 or even Part 21. It just was too unclear as to what they were doing. And it's like, again, they just don't know how to create simple language that makes everybody understand whether they're compliant or not. I'm worried that there are some things in there that somebody could get caught up and not be compliant, and this will be a real test on the new FAA approach of let's not try to punish people, but we can help them by encouraging them to rewrite this darn thing so people don't get put into that box.
Yeah, I know both of us are working hard to get the websites to work on individual circumstance. Our Pilot Information Center stands by and answers questions, but there are so many different variations on the theme from recurrency issues that are bothersome. I wish it would have been just simpler, and hopefully when they get around to getting the mechanical and the airplane certification calendar kind of adjusted, it becomes simpler. But at least we have something to go on. It's better than nothing at the moment, but I am as frustrated as you are that it could have been simpler.
And Jim, appreciate you guys taking the lead on all that, and we'll continue to be your wingman as we continue to push to try to get some better clarity and maybe some revisions to this.
And actually, Mike Short is going to comment on this momentarily, so he's got a section. I see Ernie is now on. He does not have a microphone, but he can hear. Well, Ernie, you missed your moment. Charlie was trying to give you a shout out. I think he was looking for some help. Okay, we're going to jump right into a couple of our reports. They're going to be real quick. John and Rich. John or Rich?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, hang on. Looking for the treasure report, or does Mike want to do this? Anyway, we got you can see the numbers there. We got 186 total members, 24 life, 156 regular, 6 students. Seems like there should be more. That's what we have paid up.
All right, Vince. I'm going to turn this over to you, and Vince has got a couple of photos I think he wants to talk about. Vince? I see Vince is unmuted. So what I'm going to do until he can get his microphone straightened out, I'll go ahead and talk for him a little bit. Robin and Al Cleveland, at a minimum, they aren't on the call today. They actually took off this morning. They had a work day up at Hood River. So Vince happened to be out doing some inventory of the container, the Connex, and he shot this shot somewhere around 7:30 this morning. I think many of us heard the beach leave, but it was a nice photo. And then she's still not with us? Guess not. Okay, so Vince was going through the container, and what's out there is a lot of materials that are available for use by chapter members. We have some old 2024 T0. Some of you guys know that material's out there. Super, super soft, not aircraft grade, but you might be able to make something for it that you need in your garage or your hangar or your workshop. Just be aware that we still have a lot of that material left. We have a couple of tool stands that can be used. A couple of shop backs that are available. There's a whole bunch of just straight rod, hinges, bits and pieces. And again, if you would like to have access to some of this, grab on to Vince, and he can get it out to you. And then we also have some benches, some long, straight workbenches. So if you've got a new project starting up, be aware that those are available. And these are some, can't even say it, starts with a C, 2-stroke engine parts. I'm not sure what the significance of those are, but he sent a photo to me and said they're there. I don't know if that means they're there free for the asking or whatever, but if you have any interest in any of these things or want to use them, borrow them, just contact Vince and he'll get you taken care of. And hopefully I covered everything that Vince was going to cover. Dave Ullman. Dave?
I'm working on it. Youth activities. We postponed the Teen Aviation Weekend. We had about 10 kids signed up, so they're standing by for when we can actually do that. We stopped meeting on Saturdays with the kids, and we've canceled the June Young Eagles. And the September Young Eagles is still on. To be determined, and when we do the Teen Aviation Weekend, to be determined. That's all I got.
Thanks, Dave. So even though Al can't be here today, he wanted to do a little update on the RV12. So here's what we have from Al.
Welcome. This is EAA 292's youth build, the RV12 project. My name's Al Cleveland. I am the project coordinator for this airplane. As you can see, we're building the flatperons at this time. They're almost done. We did complete the wings. They're over here just to the cameras left. All the sheet metal is all taken care of. We only have a little bit of fiberglass work to do on when we get ready to do fiberglass. That said, our next step in this project will be down here. This is our fuselage kit that just arrived, and we've inventoried it. We're still in the process of getting the nuts and bolts put where they need to be for inventory purposes. We will be using some help or needing some help as we progress forward. Given the COVID-19 issues, we've been keeping social distancing. If anybody else comes around, we have masks to wear, but we've kept the kids out of this process just for their safety. But the adult builders have still come in and done a little bit of work. So we still are progressing on the RV12, and we want to continue progressing so that when this ends and we can bring the kids back, we'll be able to say we're moving forward. So that said, we have a current buyer who has been understanding very much so about the COVID and the issue. So we have ample time to get this project going, but we still want to keep it moving forward as much as possible. Again, if anyone would like to come out and help and feel that they're comfortable working at a 6-foot radius, we could use the help. So if you're an experienced builder, contact me. We'll arrange to get things going, and I'll coordinate with everyone, and we'll keep this thing moving forward. I did mention, I think, that this is an IS kit, which means that we've had to make some upgrades to the wings. We put landing lights in and some other features in to install AOA. This is the IS fuselage laying down here. We'll have to make some minor modifications to the tail cone. All this is work that needs to be done. But when it comes time to order the engine, we hope this airframe is fully loaded and ready to go.
Any questions for Dave? Or obviously Al can't take any questions. All right, I'm going to pass the baton over to Chuck, who's going to cover an update on the Ray Scholarship. Chuck recently volunteered to kind of take that over as Mike Ryer had done his duty. So Chuck, I'm going to make you presenter.
Okay.
All right, now I see a screen that has all of us on. There we go.
Okay. Do you see my slide now?
I see one that says Midland, Texas, Josh Lorenz, Tanner, somebody. Yes.
Yeah, I just want you guys, I ferried an aircraft for Josh last year, a 185, and I'll be taking a 172 down to Tanner very shortly. But Josh did a favor for Tanner. I call it a favor. He told Tanner that he'd pay for his solo expenses up to solo if he passes ground written. So let me see if I can get to my next slide here. Come on, there it is. Since I've taken over the Ray Scholarship, I've learned a fair amount, and I'm sure I'm going to learn quite a bit more. But an individual that gets the glider, that we get a glider funds for, can actually get a powered flight certificate also, or a scholarship for it. We have a candidate right now that is 15 years old. She could possibly, if this virus goes away, get under the Ray Scholarship program, take her check right at 16, and then she would also be eligible get our power rating at that time.
Hey,
Somebody got their mics on, Mike?
Chuck, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everyone, then I'm going to have you unmute.
All right, I'm back. All right, this is a requirements for the individuals to get it. They have to have their student pilot certificate. They have to have a medical. They have to begin training within 60 days and commit to 2 hours a month and complete their training within 12 months. They can actually take their written exam prior to the thing, and they'll still be funded. We have a schedule here. We have up until October 31st to nominate anyone. If this virus goes away in July or August or September or even October and we can get to training, we will nominate an individual. And right now we have an individual in mind for a glider rating, and she can do those funds. Now these funds that are proportioned out, and they get three segments of it. The first is for solo, the next is for the written, and the next is for the check ride. There's 20% funds for the first solo, or 40%, 20% for the written, and 40% for the final phase, and they have to meet certain milestones on this. The written, can you see my mouse there, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, the written portion can be done ahead of time. I'm proposing that we have a ground school for individuals, and this ground school be their prerequisite to even getting to be a candidate for this. The EAA, this is they give extra points for that to the candidates, and we can make that a prerequisite for our chapter. We can, if we do it properly and we train these individuals through the new flying club, and we can keep the cost down, there's a possibility that we could put either 2 glider ratings through or 2 powered individuals each year. If the individual's already soloed, then we actually lose funds on it. So we could actually train individuals in the club aircraft prior to it. The whole idea is they don't get charged anything.
All right. Sounds like that's the end of your that was the end of your presentation, right?
Yeah, that's the end.
I'm going to take I'll take control back. All right. The one thing I want to underscore, anything to do with the Ray Scholarship, those funds do not come from our chapter. Those are coming from EAA National. And I know there's always a comment or a concern about how much are we investing, but this is a case where it is youth oriented, but it's not part of our budget. It's totally outside the budget. So we'll be giving you some updates on that as we proceed along.
I'd like to make another comment here, Mike. We got in under the wire with this. In fact, we got in past the wire, me stepping forward to do the Ray Scholarship. If I had not stepped forward for this, we would have not been able to have a candidate, and we would have lost the benefits for that.
Well, thanks for doing that, Chuck. I was actually not aware of that. So
yeah.
All right. Next up is Steve Sands and John Coyer. And Steve, I'm going to make you presenter now. Steve, you there?
I'm here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Steve Sands, and John is on the phone as well. What I'm going to do is just take a few minutes to go through our website. I know many of you have seen it, but hopefully some of you will benefit from just this quick overview. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to provide just a little bit of general information about how we manage the website. I'll share a little bit about how many people visit it. who to contact if you have questions or suggestions. And then we're going to do a quick overview of how to get to the website, excuse me, navigation, some of the top items that we have put into the website and the reasons for that, and then how you can help if you have ideas or suggestions and want to participate. So from a general information standpoint, we use a web host vendor to host the website to make it available to display over the internet. The vendor we use is called Wix, W-I-X. And one of the advantages for the chapter of doing that is it provides the security that we need for our website. And it also provides a set of tools that allow us to design the pages and make it easier for us to be able to make changes to the pages that you see when you go to the website. So that's one of the reasons we use a vendor. Currently, we have about 300 people a month going to our site. Sometimes in different parts of the month, there are different cycles. Right now, it's about 300 people a month. Sometimes it's as high as 400 or a little bit more than 400 a month. And sometimes you can see that more than the same people go multiple times. So who do you contact if you have questions, are unclear about something, or have suggestions? Please contact John Coyer or myself, Steve Sands. I'll show you how to do that in a couple of minutes. And then be sure to copy Mike Kelly if you have questions or ideas. So this is what we're going to cover in just a moment. We're going to talk about the navigation, what's on some of the pages. So I'm not going to go through every page, but we are going to go now to the website, and I'm going to show you the actual site and cover just a little bit of what's on here. So this is the main landing page, and the way we show it is we call it the home page. So it's the main landing page. It's composed of navigation, which we'll talk about in a second. And then we have information and articles, if you will, or pieces of information that we feel are of value and importance to our members. So we have a link that would go to the most current newsletter. We've talked about the fly-in. We've highlighted the work that Chuck is doing in the flight simulator. That goes to a page that talks about the stuff that he's working on. We have Mike Kelly's video from the Stoll event and other information, and even some of the builds that have been going on. So that's what we highlight on the main page. We also have links to be able to pay your 2020 dues. And then we have a link that goes to the weekend details page for the Teen Aviation Weekend. So we've tried to kind of bundle information for people to make it easier to kind of collectively think about how to get to things. For instance, we bundled all of the youth stuff into additional navigation steps. So the scholarships, grants and aid, Teen Build, Teen Aviation Weekend, and the sign-up form and Young Eagles Rally. So as an example, this is the page that David Ullman was talking about earlier about Teen Aviation Weekend. This is, again, the template layout that we get from the Wix website tool that we use, and it allows us to be able to make this design that you see here, along with adding photos and the different text that we need to be able to show for people. We also have a list, and we bundled all of the projects we have here, including the work that Vince has done on his ME-262 55% build that he had been working on, the work for Ernie's DH2, which you can see here along with all the photos. And we've also included the initial videos that came with that. Also the FMX, some pictures and text from some time ago from Bob and the work that he has been doing. He's much further along than that. One of the other things that we've done is to include a calendar that Al Cleveland updates, and you can see it load here. And if you click on one of the items, you get some information about what that particular item is. So it's a good way to be able to see what's coming up and what's available. We've also included a separate link to the 2020 fly-in so people can see that, and there's some conversation about whether this is going to continue or has to be updated. And we'll make updates to that again as we go forward. You can see information about the fly-in, And then we've bundled a lot of information in the sort of last category that includes, for instance, a page for our officers and tech counselors, which you can see here, including the tech counselors down here, Ernie, Henry, Al, Gary, and Denny. And then we also have other links to staff, and you can see how to contact John and I should you have questions or have suggestions about the website, including the other folks who are included here. I also wanted to mention that Vince is listed here as the tour room manager in case you have any questions about the tour room or about the facilities. You can contact him there. So I'm going to just scroll this down just a little bit so you can see the entire list of things, bylaws, the simulator, again, page that Chuck has been working on about the chapter, how to join, ordering a name tag, etc. So with that, I'm going to say I'm going to close this, go back here.
And are you done, Steve? Do you want me to take back over? And Steve went silent on us. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that's on the website. And the one thing that I want to comment, especially under the projects, we're looking for people to add their project materials. If you would like to have a couple of photos you're playing, a brief paragraph description, send the material to Steve or John or myself. We'll try to get it packaged up for you, and we'll try to get it published on our website, because we'd love to have more member representation on that. Anything else, Steve? He's muted now, so he must be done.
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you. I clicked the wrong button and closed the browser. So I'm still technologically challenged. So yes, if someone could give us some additional information about the T28 or other projects that people have, what they're doing, what their timeline, what they're hoping to achieve by it, that would be great. And we can, as you said, Mike, we can add that.
Perfect. Oh, and Rich, also for the tail dragger. So Rich Harrison is looking for content for the tail dragger. I think if you noticed last month, we had a couple of articles about some projects in the air park. So we are looking for stories about aircraft. Oh, good. I've got a comment from John Gogol, says he'll make an update about his T28. That would be really interesting. Okay, as we're approaching the top of the hour, what we usually do is we take a quick break. Well, okay, we're going to have that virtual break, and it's free today. Have as much of the donuts and the coffee as you want, but we'll make it really, really short, and grab something because it's going to be quickly gone. All right, that was a quick break. So this brings us to kind of a more serious part of our discussion, and what we want to, I'm going to open up the microphones to Steve Wheat and Tim Isaac, who are really the leaders of our fly-in and our Stoll Expo. So if you guys would unmute your microphones, and maybe you could make some comments about where we're at with our with our events.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
I can, Steve. You're on.
Okay, so I keep getting a lot of email from a number of people saying, that maybe canceling the event would be the best option. And because I'm getting these emails from the people who actually do the work at the event, at this point, we certainly aren't going to put on a regular fly-in. I think yesterday we kind of chatted it over at the meeting about waiting a month to see if anybody wanted to put on a limited local event with just anybody who wanted to show up from the air park with their planes, maybe do some flying, sit around and chat, and try and put on something that we called a local fly-in and not really invite the public. I'm still open to do whatever everybody wants to do or to cancel it altogether.
We talked about maybe taking a vote amongst the members. I'm going to kind of leave it up to you, Mike, to maybe give us some focus and direction on what the next plan might be.
Good. Tim, you want to comment for Stoll?
Yeah, certainly. Am I live? Yes,
You are live.
Hey, great. That comment that Steve made about the Stoll event, and it's kind of transitioning into what I call a Stoll exhibition at this point. Again, I think we're a little premature in terms of planning and the restrictions that we're all living under right now to determine for sure whether or not we should go ahead with some of the volunteer services applications with ODA and so forth that we still have time for should things open up, but it's not looking likely that that's going to happen. So we've sort of converted into the idea of this exhibition idea, and rather than having a time-restricted competition, it's proposed that we would have Stoll aircraft with sort of an extended schedule that might take place over several days. So we could spread it out and schedule 1 or 2 or 3 pilots a day to be video recorded. The purpose of that would be to be used to promote the future Stoll competitions, and of course our EAA 292 chapter. The airport would remain open during those video recordings, so there'd be no volunteers on the airport grounds. We'd be doing everything from a distance with traditional communications that we all already use here at Independence Airport. The Stoll performance measurements for flying the aircraft would be also measured from the sidelines with cameras, or as Dave Ullman suggested, we would be using his GoPro camera that he would mount on the competition as we fly these various aircraft. So that's kind of where we stand right now. Things are on hold. We're looking at this proposed exhibition method of recording some of our local pilots, getting video interviews with them, maybe talking about their projects and their aircraft, and again, sort of waiting out another month to see what happens with the governor's restrictions here in Oregon and the FAA and EAA restrictions. So that's about it from me, Mike.
I think that's a pretty good summary, Steve and Tim. So where we're at right now, we are clearly not doing a traditional fly-in as we've done them in the past. We may choose to do something that is local, not promoted, maybe something that where we can maintain social distancing, maintain the rules, but we just don't know. We don't know what we don't know at this point. So I think our plan is to give it another 30 days, see which way the trends are going, and then maybe get a survey out to the membership to say, would you rather cancel it? Would you like to do something? It's got to be little effort, not much planning. And if things come out to August and things are not looking any better, that we have to be able to cancel it with no muss, no fuss. So we'll continue to keep you apprised of this situation, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And I'm going to unmute and just ask, does anyone have any questions or comments about this? This is a critical part of our chapter, and so it's a decision we're not taking lightly. I'm going to unmute everyone, and we'll see what we get. Anyone have a question?
Hey, Mike, this is Steve. Yeah. I don't have a question, but I think John and I will need to work with you, Steve, Dave, and Tim on changes we should make on the web pages relative to what we say and the dates.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there. I agree with you, Steve. I noticed on the website we still have application registration and so forth that all need to be updated.
All right, so let's get that. We'll get that message. Maybe it just is stated for more information. It's TBD at this point. So that's fine. Anyone else before I shut the microphones down again? All right, I'm going to mute everyone. Again, you'll have to unmute yourself, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mike Short.
Hi, everyone. Mike Short, do the VMC IMC Club, and we had our first online meeting this month. It went pretty well. We had about a little over 20 people attend, and we had a couple good scenarios. On that point, we're looking for any member that may have a Pilot Workshops subscription that would be maybe willing to share some of those Pilot Workshop scenarios with us for the VMC Club stuff. We've been using some of their stuff that they put out for free, but they have an extensive library of scenarios that if we could get a hold of a few of them, it might be kind of nice to use for VMC Club. I understand some other chapters are using the IMC and VMC scenarios from Pilot Workshops. So if you happen to have a subscription to Pilot Workshops and you'd like to share that a little bit with the chapter, please give me a call. Also, we just heard from Jack and Jim about the extension on medicals and on flight reviews. And the FAA has extended the flight reviews, but they didn't make it necessarily easy, and that's what they were talking about. If your flight review is due in March or through June, you're eligible for an extension. The pilot must have logged at least 10 hours of PIC time within the last 12 months, preceding the month where the flight review was due. And you have to have 3 wings webinar or seminar credits also. So the credits are pretty easy to get. There's tons and tons of webinars out there and seminars that are available online. They're usually about an hour long, and you can get a credit for each one. So be careful that you're not just extending without meeting those requirements, that you had to have the 10 hours of PIC time and the 3 hours of credit. Also, I recommend you check with your insurance company and make sure that you are still insured, even though, because your flight review has technically expired. You might want to make sure that they are honoring that. Instrument rules are a little more complicated, and if you have commercial license, it's a little more complicated yet. You have, like those guys said, the FAA did not make it easy. So if you're thinking about using the extension, make sure you get online and check some of those regulations. So that's really all I have, Mike.
Perfect. Any questions for Mike? I'm gonna unmute the microphone. Any questions on the safety side? Any comments?
The VMC Club, you were started offering wings credits for that. Does that count?
Yes. The VMC, we did not get wings credit for the last one because it was really last minute for that, and I have to have a 21-day lead time on that. Otherwise, we're going to try and get wings credit on the rest of them that we do if we do them online.
We knew Arrow couldn't make it through the entire meeting.
Yeah, he's done really well up until this point. Of course, the minute I get on, then here he goes.
Any other questions? So. Dave Ullman,
sorry
you got a
about
question?
That.
Dave, you got a question?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. I'm going to, again, mute everyone, and we'll go ahead and move. Bruce Patton, would you unmute your mic and maybe give us a little update on the hangar expansion?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who submitted their survey response. We have around 50 right now. We've gotten some very good comments on the survey. The survey results are interesting. We're not going to go over them now because the survey is still open for at least another week. But it's turning out we have a diverse bunch of people out there in the club, as we all know, and we're getting some very good comments written into the survey, and so and there's some of the most useful information is people's comments, but also the survey results are also indicate some trends. I'd like everybody who hasn't responded yet to please go out and find that email, or maybe Mike could send out a reminder. I don't know what we can do, but the more people we get, this is your opportunity to have some input into what we're going to be thinking about on the hangar expansion. But that Survey Monkey that Google put out is a very interesting device. I think it's being used by a lot of people. And thanks for Mike for the help in getting it going and getting it out. That's all I got.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, and I will echo what he said. The information is very interesting, but the goal here is to do what our members want to do, not, we don't want this to be driven by a small handful of people. So we're already getting very, very good input about things that are maybe what we didn't think were going to be high priorities, but the membership across the board seems to feel are. So we will be sharing this information with you. We haven't really decided. I think we're going to leave the survey open for a few more days. We'll certainly be locking it and shutting it down by the end of the week. So if you can, try to get your input in. Okay, I'm not sure if Ron is on the call with us or not, but Mr. Gizmo actually took the opportunity to give us one of his little gadgets, and and he actually put this on video, so we're going to share it with you.
Well, hello, fellow pilots and builders. I've got a new thing from Mr. Gizmo. Well, you've all been swimming and floating on different items in pools. So here we are, noodles. What do you do with noodles? Well, I'll tell you what you do with noodles. Actually, take care of your head and make it feel better if you use them the right way. Now, we take this noodle here, we cut it up into pieces, we put a slice in them, like you can see down the middle of this one. Then we install them on the tips of the wings, called propellers, those wings. And I put a red one up there, and I have some bigger ones, noodle breakers, down here. And that's how you protect your airplane from elbows, heads, and everything else. In my video, what I did is I used big ones for the ends of the props. That's for changing oil, checking tires, and you don't pay attention and you get whacked in the head. And then I got one up here on the top. These were $2 over at Walmart. Different types of noodles. There's big ones. You can get ones like this. And you cut them into slices and you can set them down on the hangar floor and put items on them. And they won't get scratched. So there you got it, Mr. Gizmo's special of the month for keeping yourself isolated. Until next time, be safe.
Well, thank you, Ron. I don't think you're on right now, but we certainly enjoyed that, and looking forward to the next episode of Mr. Gizmo. For those of you who aren't aware, we actually have created some new chapter materials, and these are part of a welcome pack. And if you haven't seen them, this is a trifold piece, and it talks a little bit about why we are such a great chapter, where we're at. It has a section here, and it mentions the fact that we're a gold-rated chapter. We hit the Fly-In and the Stoll Expo. And then on the back side, we really kind of focus on these three areas: learning, skills, and youth. On the learning side, we talk about the VMC, IMC club, the flight simulator, the flying clubs, including the glider club and the power youth club. Then we get into discussing the builders group and the tools and all the facilities that we have available. And then we do talk about youth, the teen build, the scholarships that are available, and Young Eagles. So a nice piece. We're going to get it up on the website so anybody can download it. It's also going out in the new member packet. So if somebody comes in and is a guest, they get a whole slew of materials. Some of it's from national, some of it's from our chapter. Now, something that that we've added, and this applies to members, but it also, or new members, but it's also going to apply to old members or existing members. And the idea is to try to figure out of our membership who can do what and who likes to do what. So we're doing what we call a talent survey. And the talent survey pretty much says, how would I like to participate? You know, I want to be involved with youth. I want to be involved in the fly-in. I want to help work on club aircraft. So what are the tasks that, you know, or I would help out with working with the board? All right, I have a message coming up. Okay. And then how do you view yourself as a team member? Are you an individual contributor? Do you like to be part of a team? It says, can I move the mouse pointer out of the video? Probably too late for that now, but thank you. And finally, what are the skills that you perhaps can bring, and whether those are organizational skills, meeting skills, organizing skills, and then you get into more, you know, do you do engines? Do you work with sheet metal? Are you electrical, carpentry, so forth? So we're trying to figure out what are the resources that are available today within the chapter, and you know, based upon this, how you would like to be involved. We want to make sure that everybody can have an active role. And as we've said before, this is a volunteer organization, and our success is built on your participation and your involvement. So one of the things we're going to do is not only give this to our new members, but we're probably going to send it out to everybody that's in the chapter today and see if we can get some of our existing members to fill it out, to really figure out, do we have more skills and capability than what we know about? So Bruce Patton says, who put this together? It's great. Thank you, Bruce. The board put it together. It's something we've been working on for a while, but we appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Rod Kerr, are you online with us today, Rod? I don't see Rod. Okay, so, you know, Rod is an extremely talented builder, but he's also kind of an extremely talented artist in many regards. And so I went to Rod and I said, Rod, we'd really like to have a chapter logo. And, you know, and those of you who have worked with me in the past, you know, I'm pretty easygoing. I don't make a lot of requests, a lot of input. So Rod came back with an idea, and he said, "What about something like this? Very generic propeller." And then he built a couple of variations on it with some different colors. And you know, of course, I came back and said, "Yeah, Rod, but you know, we need something that's really more about." It's more about the chapter. You know, we want some character, we want some personality. So Rod came back and, oh yeah, what about this? It has the solar eclipse. Well, the solar eclipse was 2 years ago. And then he came back with this. This was kind of interesting. The Willamette, it has the Willamette River. It has the trees, wings over the Willamette. And I said, that's great. But it can't say Stoll Expo. We are more than the Stoll Expo. So we took that out. And I said, oh, can we do it with some more aircraft? So he put a low wing aircraft in there. Again, I said, Rod, can't we have like 4 or 5 airplanes? And he hasn't figured out how to do that yet. But this has kind of evolved, and it's taking a couple of different concepts and building on it. And this is kind of the latest, greatest where we're headed off to. And I really kind of like this. It's got the side profile of the Facet Mobile. And he took that and built on it. And I said, well, you know what? We can't have those Storch wings. Take the wings off. Let's make it look like an experimental jet. So what we're playing around with is some different ideas how we could use a base logo, maybe have a horizontal format, vertical formats, different colors. And our intention is to be able to come back to the membership in a month and let you guys give your input and maybe vote on what we want to have as the chapter logo. One of the concepts is to use something like this one on the far right, but have a variety of aircraft. So you have a fat tire plane, you have an RV, you have a Lancer, you have a Sonics, and they would actually kind of cycle through. So you'd have kind of evolving, on the website, you'd see a whole bunch of different aircraft profiles, and that can be done. And so we've kind of went back to Rod with that idea. His favorite so far is something that is like this. And again, he has the Stoll Expo logo on it, but it has the trees, it has the river. So just be aware, these are ideas, they're concepts. And so we're going to continue to build on this. We're working with Rod. The thing I would say is, if anybody has any ideas or things that they think that would work out well, send Rod and I, copy me if you want, an email. But he's done a fantastic job building on this so far. And I'm just going to open this up for some comments, just for if anybody has anything that they would like to say about what we've seen so far.
Hey, Mike, this is Steve. You have a couple comments from Henson and also from Vince, and then I have a comment after them.
All right, so Henson says, oh, thank you. The web conference is great. It's much better than I expected. We need help getting everyone back on board. All right. And Vince says, we need the FMX and the DH2 as a contrast IB areas. I'm not sure, Vince. I'm not sure what you meant there, but the idea would be to potentially put a DH2 in this area as well, so we could actually cycle aircraft as having different aircraft in the different areas. So lots of flexibility. Steve, what did you want to comment on?
I really appreciate all the work that you and Rod are doing on this. I think it's great if we have a design that is both a horizontal design, because that will help fit on our website, and then also the round design or the vertical square design. I think we need to have both. Thanks.
I agree. Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Okay, again, I'm going to shut down the microphones. And we're going to move ahead. Just want to let you know some of the things that the board's working on. You guys have probably seen the Cessna over in front of Henry's. What's going on is as part of EAA's recommendation and a way of incentivizing younger and youth, and also people who maybe don't have access to airplanes, we're trying to establish a flying club that would be based here at Independence The tentative name of it right now, it's the Independence Youth Flying Club, although it's not limited to youth. It is going to be a 501c3, such that we will be able to take donations. Our first 2 aircraft that we're bringing on board is a Cherokee 140 that was actually donated by Ed Hanavig. And if you haven't seen this, it's actually a nice little airplane. And I just got a couple little video clips of it right here. And thanks to Jerry Price, Jerry came out and we got the annual done on it. The engine is strong and it's a really, really smooth running plane. We are just in the process of getting the insurance lined up on it. And then we're going to be signing up members. So we actually have 2 4-seat aircraft that will be available to you. Now, this panel right now is antiquated. At a minimum, we're going to put an air dock or an air gizmo dock in there with a 396 moving map. We're going to get it actually has an ILS nav aid in there for doing an ILS approach. So it is actually a pretty nice little plane. And it runs really well. Pay no attention to the funny looking prop on the front of it. So the second one, the second aircraft you've probably seen sitting over in front of Henry's is a 172, a 1966 172 that we are in the process of acquiring. And I say we're in the process of because we're actually requesting EAA contribute some seed funds to make this acquisition possible. You're going to notice it's missing something on the front. It had a Continental 0300 on it. That 0300 is shot. We're putting a new engine, a zero-time 0300 in it that actually Richard Hill, we've got the parts in. We're putting the parts together. It will be a zero-time 0300, and we hope to have that plane back online in a couple weeks. We have the parts out for inspection and certification. So we'll be setting up this is independent of EAA, but we'll be taking a membership. Right now, what we're kind of thinking is we're going to limit this to about 25 members, and we don't want to have so many members that everybody doesn't get adequate access to the aircraft. So somebody said, is it ADS-B compliant? The answer is not today. One of the things we're doing is we're actually making a pitch to Dynon that asking them if they would donate or donate at a very low cost new avionics panels for both aircraft. This would include ADS-B in and ADS-B out. If that doesn't happen, but I anticipate it will, we will probably put something like a tail beacon in to make it compliant. So that's a great question. And yes, somebody said, check out the Corvallis rental system. We're going to try to make this computerized. We don't want anybody having to be slaved to a phone or a laptop or a desktop. So, and we've got a couple of ideas how we're going to do that. One of the things that's really important is that this organization, we do not in any way want to compete with like Jeannie's Aviation or what Robin does or what Wayne Nooch does. This is going to be a different avenue. The goal is to take underserved or a market in our area and get some of these people who are not flying up and get them to solo or maybe beyond solo, and then have them transition into over to Jeannie's Aviation, where she would take them out, getting them all the way up through their check ride. And we've already we're working with people like Mike Short and others trying to make sure that this thing does not compete and that it's a win-win for everybody all the way around. We're going to have more on this. And somebody says, how much to join the club and dues? Hold off on that. I don't want to be premature. We have a framework. We have an idea of a framework in place, but I don't want to put out numbers right now until we run through all the models. John Gogol says it needs to be easy. Yes, we absolutely agree. It needs to be really easy. Schedule stuff on the computer. Sign out an aircraft. Go get the keys and be on your own. And we expect this to be low cost flying. We're hoping that we can bring these aircraft in the $60-65 an hour range. So that remains to be seen. Like I said, more to be announced. I'm not going to take questions on it because I know there would be a lot, and I'm just trying to keep everybody apprised because it is not an official EAA activity, although we are going to really be encouraging it, and we want to see it happen. It's going to be good for our members. The next topic is kind of a kit plane overview. One of the things we don't do a lot of is talk about what's out on the market. And so some of you are aware of what we call the Aerolite 103, but this was actually some footage that was shot by another chapter or chapter member, and I thought it might be interesting to you. This is an ultralight class, but it's fully capable 3-axis controls, and you've heard some of us talk about it. So here it is.
The Aerolite has been designed to meet the criteria of FAR 103 and to provide a normal transition for those who are coming from private pilot flying, Cessnas and so forth, and also easy enough to fly with adequate performance, great performance actually, for those starting out with no flying experience at all.
Well, the big appeal of ultralights in general, or Part 103 ultralights in general, is it is an aircraft that you can fly without a pilot's license.
Since it is ultralight, there's no license for it. Therefore, there's no age requirement, so anybody can fly one.
He flew his Aerolite 103 from Virginia to Oshkosh this year, which was a 750-mile trip with 32 stops.
It's great. I've been fortunate. I've been able to fly lots and lots of different airplanes over the years, but I always tell people if I get 45 minutes to go out and fly for fun, I'll walk past everything else and get in an ultralight and go fly that.
I approached the EAA about the possibility of building one of these here and saying that we could do it in a week, and there's great interest in ultralights and bringing that back. So we're doing this through the week. We're into day 3, and we have done what you see behind me. The kit comes pretty complete if you look on the different websites. The cage is all built, all the structures pre-built, the wing panels are built. The day you unpack the Aerolite, you can start covering it. All the control surfaces you see in the background up against the wall, they were all done in 2 hours. The wings, we put the wings on this morning and covered them, put the ribs in. We did that in 2 hours this afternoon. The Aerolite goes together so simple, you know, a couple weeks on average builder can take care of it himself. Anybody that turns a wrench should be able to do that, do this kit. It's fairly simple, minimum tools to do it. So I appreciate what the EAA is doing, and I think that's going to be a big part of the rebirth of the Part 103 ultralights, and that's why we're doing the build here.
They want something that they can use for recreation, for the simple joy of going out and flying.
And one thing we have, ultralighters have, is the beauty of being in the environment. We can feel the wind. We can see the grass without windows or doors. Ultralight is just, it's freedom, it's fun, it's affordable, and it's just simple. It's just a wonderful way to enjoy the sport. It really is the freedom and spirit of aviation.
So I thought everybody might enjoy that, and we've kind of said tongue in cheek that probably if we got a group of us together and wanted to do a batch purchase, we could probably get a pretty good deal on them. So John said, with our hangar, it'd be interesting to incorporate a new way to hang ultralights from the ceiling. Yeah, that's true. However, we'd also like to have them easily accessible so we could take them out and fly them. All right. So instead of having a major presenter this month, what we decided we do is present some technical content to you, or something that probably most of you can take advantage of. So what we're going to bring out here is a hints for home builders. Now, if you're not aware, the EAA website has an abundance of tutorial videos on how to do things. And this one here pertains to if you have a slightly damaged wood propeller, how would you go about repairing it? I thought it was really interesting, especially the first scene and how he chooses to inflict damage. So we'll enjoy this. I think you'll enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Brian Carpenter from Rainbow Aviation, and today's home builder hint is going to be about repairing wooden propellers. And this is just an alternate to a couple of other type of repairs that we have here. One of the companies that uses a very similar system to this is Jabiru, and their propeller recommendations are to use a cotton flocks and epoxy repair. And so we're going to show you how that would take place today. And if you're not familiar with flocks, this is a medium that the composite guys are very familiar with. It's just ground up cotton fibers. And one of the advantages of using this is it provides some structure into the epoxy rather than just having a layer of epoxy going into the repair. And so we're going to use a two-part epoxy to make this happen. And I'm just going to mix up more than I need for this. This happens to be 20-minute epoxy, but it really takes about, we need to, after we've done this repair, probably 24 hours before we fly the airplane. And so this is not a fast repair like the super glue and baking soda method, but this one's pretty strong. And so especially on the repairs as they get a little bit bigger, this would be our preferred go-to method for making the repair. So we're going to make sure that we get just the right amount of flocks in here. And so we're going to start off, and we're just going to bring in a little bit more. And we want to get that consistency kind of like toothpaste. Not too thick, but not too thin. We don't want it running, but we want it to be able to penetrate into those fibers on the repair. And because this is a 20-minute working time epoxy, we've got quite a bit of time to work with this. So before we even set up our repair here, I'm just going to tap a little bit more of this off into here. Make sure I don't use all of it. And one of the things that you'll want to do, like any structural repair we do with composite materials, we always make what's called a coupon. And so we're going to use some of this excess material when we're done. See how that looks? That's looking pretty good. If we can kind of form a little Q-tip, kind of like your whipped cream sticking up in the air, that's kind of what we're looking for. I like that right there. So make sure we got all of the epoxy off of the stick and into the mix so that we don't get a weird mix. And we're good to go. Okay, so now we're going to come over and ding our propeller here. So we'll just simulate a rock chip or something like that, and I'm just going to take it right next to this one right here. And so I've got a nice ding right in the end of that. If there's any material that's floating loose, we'll go ahead and remove that. Remember, if there's any oil or anything on that propeller, you're probably going to need to do a whole lot more cleaning. This just is a brand new propeller here, but so we don't need to do any prep ahead of time. But doing a repair over an oily propeller, really risky. So make sure that your repair is absolutely clean before you start doing this. And like anything else of the other types of repairs that we do, we're going to create a dam to hold our epoxy in place. And a couple of pieces of tape will take care of that. And this will allow us to be able to capture the epoxy down in between that and not have it run off. Even though it's nice and thick, we're going to shove it into the hole, make sure we get it in there nice and thick. And then when we're done, we're just going to close that up. And so now we've built our little dam in there. We've got excess epoxy, and that's going to take like 24 hours to cure. Before you're done, just take a couple popsicle sticks and glue them together and let those cure with it. And after you're all done with this repair, come back and check those popsicle sticks and make sure that it's the popsicle stick that breaks and not the epoxy. Or if it's still gooey, don't go flying until it's actually all cured up, but it'll give you a clue as to how the epoxy is performing before you actually get into the air. So this takes so long to do this. Yesterday we laid up and did another repair very similar to this. And so we're just going to now step into this area and see what our system looks like. A little bit soft still, just a little bit, but we're going to see if we can't. And once again, my favorite for doing prop work on all of this kind of stuff is that Vixen file. And you can see it's pretty good. The harder this is, the easier the Vixen file will function. It's just a series of knife blades. Rather than pushing it through, get yourself a little angle on there so that Vixen file can actually get in and do the cut. And the nice thing about the Vixen file is it has a tendency to float over the surface. It doesn't dig in. So as I'm working out here, you can see I'm not really doing even any damage to the propeller at all because of the large teeth that are on there. It'll just kind of float, and it'll only take off the very highest of the spots. Looking pretty good. And with the epoxy repair, rather than stopping with the Vixen file, we'll usually just take a little bit of 220 sandpaper and we can clean that all up. Any little irregularities. And let's see here. Try and keep your fingers off it so you don't contaminate it as you're working. And what we normally use is a polyurethane fast dry paint. This stuff is kind of our go-to for doing repairs. Because we've been sanding on the wood and we may have sanded through that final coating, we're going to want to protect the thing. So once we're done with this, we'll just come back and give it a couple of coats of, and it doesn't take very much just to protect that propeller. And there's our final repair. We're pretty much ready. After that, we know that it's 100% cured. We're ready to go flying again. And it's a strong repair. It's one that we can usually count on with a wooden propeller, even up to about the size of the end of your fingernail on a typical wooden propeller. That's a pretty good size chunk out of a propeller. Each manufacturer has its limitations on what you can get away with and how much you can take out of that propeller. So make sure you refer to the manufacturer's manual before you start doing this. But cotton flocks and epoxy repair on wooden props, you know now how to do that.
All right, I thought that was kind of interesting. And as we come to kind of a close on this particular meeting, I'm going to save some of the other content for next month. We are going to end up having to do another virtual meeting in June, and then we'll probably make a decision later about July and see where that goes. I want to tell you that the board has been very active behind the scenes, trying to make sure that stuff happens, that things are getting taken care of. We've had multiple meetings via video. We've got a long-term multi-year planning meeting set up for this coming Friday. And I would like to kind of leave everyone with this challenge. You've seen individual contributors. You've seen Al, you've seen Mr. Gizmo, and some others put together content that they are willing to share during our meeting. I will work with anyone. If you want to do a special little program, if you want to talk about your project, if you want to show off your airplane, I will come over with a video camera, or I will work with you, and we'll put together something. And I'd be curious to see what we could come up with some quote-unquote crowdsourced material for next month. So with that, I'm going to open up the microphone to anyone who's out there, but I'm going to bring this meeting to a close and thank everyone for participating. And also, this is new. I know this is new, and giving it at least a try. So anybody have any final comments?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Richard here. It's good to be able to join you guys down here from Arizona, and we're anxious to get back up to Oregon. It's been it was up to 106 this week.
It was 80 something here yesterday.
So be glad to get back in the cool weather. We'd be back there by now if it wasn't for the virus. That's all I have to say. Just want to say hello to.
Thanks, Richard. Anyone else want to say anything?
Hi.
All right. Let's call. Well, oh, sorry. Somebody else?
Yeah, just one from Jerry. I wanted to thank all of you that helped put this together. It really came out nice. And just one minor complaint. I didn't see any jelly donuts or apple fritters.
All right, I will put that on the list for next time, Jerry. Although I think the pile is getting short.
Okay.
All right, yeah, everybody. Thanks again, and stay safe. And we'll look forward to talking to you or working with you in the next couple weeks. Okay. All right. Bye bye.